two women started at the exact same company, on the exact same day with the exact same salary. Mira and Farah. Same job title. Same paycheck of $60,000 a year. Same one-bedroom apartments, 3 blocks apart. Same rent, give or take $50. If you looked at their bank statements on day one, you would not have been able to tell them apart. 5 years later, Mira owns a small rental property and has $22,000 sitting in investments. Farah is still renting the same apartment, still living paycheck to paycheck and quietly $2,000 in credit card debt. Same income, same 5 years, completely different outcomes. Here's the part that should unsettle you. Farah wasn't reckless. She didn't gamble her money away. She didn't buy a car she couldn't afford. She never had a single dramatic financial disaster. If you'd asked her at any point during those 5 years how she was doing, she would have said, fine. And she believed it. That's what makes this dangerous. Nobody warned her. There was no single moment where she could point and say, that's where it went wrong. It wasn't one decision. It was 7 quiet signs, repeated for 5 years, that she never once noticed. This isn't about how much money you make. It's about signals your finances are already sending you. Signals most people are trained to ignore, because on the surface, everything still looks fine. I'm going to walk you through the 7 signs that tell you you're quietly getting poorer, even while your life looks completely stable. Some of these will surprise you. A few of them might describe you right now. By the end, you'll understand exactly which of these cost Farah her 5 years, and how Mira avoided every single one of them without even trying particularly hard. Rule 1. Your expenses grow exactly as fast as your income. Here's a bold claim. If your spending goes up every single time your income goes up, you are not actually getting richer. You're running in place. This one is subtle because it feels like progress. You get a raise, and almost immediately, your life upgrades with it. A better apartment, a nicer car, eating out more often because you can finally afford it. Nothing about any single purchase looks irresponsible. Farah got a $4,000 raise in her second year. Within 3 months, she'd moved to an apartment with underground parking, upgraded her phone plan, and started ordering food delivery 3 times a week instead of cooking. None of it felt like overspending. It felt like she was finally living a little. But here's what most people miss. Her savings rate. The percentage of her income she actually kept didn't move. Not even slightly. She was earning more and keeping exactly the same amount, which is another way of saying her wealth-building speed never increased, no matter how many raises she got. This is called lifestyle inflation, and the reason it's so effective at keeping people financially stagnant is that it never triggers alarm. There's no red flag. Your bank account doesn't go negative. You just quietly never get ahead, year after year, while believing each raise is progress. Mira did something different with her raises, and we'll come back to exactly what. Rule 2. You measure your finances against the wrong people. You compare yourself to your coworkers, your friends, the people in your apartment building, and that comparison is quietly setting your financial targets for you, without your permission. Farah's closest friend at work leased a new car 18 months in. Farah didn't need a new car. Hers ran fine, but something shifted in her head. If her friend on the same salary could afford that car, shouldn't she be able to as well? 6 weeks later, she had a new car payment. Here's the hidden mechanism. Social comparison doesn't just affect how you feel. It directly sets your spending baseline. You unconsciously calibrate what's normal for your income based on people around you, not based on your own goals or math. And the people around you are often making the exact same mistake, comparing themselves to someone else, creating a chain of upgraded lifestyles that nobody individually chose. It just accumulated. It gets worse. The people you're comparing yourself to are frequently in worse financial shape than they appear, which means you might be adjusting your entire financial life around an illusion. Someone else's leased car and someone else's dinners out are not evidence of their financial health. They're just visible. Your friend's growing 401k is invisible. Her declining savings account is invisible. You only see the parts people choose to display. Mira had the exact same coworker, the exact same new car sitting in the parking lot every morning. She never leased one. Rule 3. You don't know your own numbers. If someone asked you right now, without checking your phone, exactly how much you spent on food last month, could you answer within $50? Most people can't. And this isn't a minor gap. It's one of the strongest predictors of long-term financial decline because you cannot fix what you cannot see. Farah genuinely believed she was spending not that much on takeout. When she finally added it up during a moment of financial anxiety 2 years in, it was over $400 a month. Not because any single order was expensive, a $14 lunch here, an $18 dinner there, but because she was never looking at the total, just the individual moments, each one small enough to feel harmless. This is the psychological trap. Humans are very good at judging whether one purchase feels reasonable and very bad at tracking the accumulation of many reasonable-feeling purchases. Your brain evaluates each decision in isolation. Your bank account experiences them all at once, at the end of the month, as a single number that somehow never quite adds up the way you expected. Nobody talks about this because I don't track my spending doesn't feel like a financial failure the way I have debt does. But not knowing your numbers is what allows every other sign on this list to go undetected for years. Mira reviewed her spending for 10 minutes every Sunday night, not because she loved budgeting. She'll tell you she hates it. But because those 10 minutes were the only reason she caught problems while they were still small. Rule 4. Convenience is quietly taxing you. Every convenience you pay for has a price tag that's larger than the number on the receipt. Subscription services, delivery fees, premium versions of things you'd use anyway. These are marketed as small, forgettable amounts. $9 here, $15 there. But convenience purchases share a specific trait that makes them dangerous. They're recurring, and they're designed to be forgotten. Farah was paying for 4 different streaming subscriptions, a meal kit service she used maybe twice a month, and a premium version of an app she barely opened. Individually, none of it looked reckless. Combined, it was over $130 a month, automatically withdrawn, never reconsidered, essentially invisible. Here's the hidden cost most people never calculate. That's not just $130 a month. Left uninvested over 5 years, that's close to $8,000 in missed opportunity, before accounting for any growth it could have earned. The subscriptions didn't just cost what they cost what that money could have become. This is loss aversion working against you in reverse. You feel the discomfort of canceling something, the small sense of losing access, much more sharply than you feel the slow, invisible loss of paying for something you don't use. So the subscription survives, quietly, for years, because canceling feels like a bigger deal than it actually is. Rule 5. You treat debt as normal instead of temporary. There's a specific moment where debt stops being a tool and starts being a lifestyle. And most people cross that line without noticing. Farah's credit card debt started small, an unexpected car repair. She told herself she'd pay it off within 2 months. But 2 months later, a new expense came up, and instead of paying it off, she just kept the balance where it was and added a little more. This continued for 3 years. The balance never grew dramatically. It also never disappeared. I'm not done yet, because here's the part that makes this especially costly. Carrying even a small revolving balance means a portion of every future paycheck is already spoken for before it arrives, in the form of interest. Farah wasn't paying attention to her interest rate. When she finally checked, it was 24%. On a balance of $2,000, that's roughly $40 a month, every month, for nothing. No product, no service, just the cost of comfort with debt that should have felt urgent and no longer did. The psychological shift is subtle but powerful. Once debt stops feeling urgent, it stops getting solved. it becomes background noise. And background noise doesn't get fixed. It gets tolerated indefinitely while quietly draining money that could have gone anywhere else. Rule 6. You save whatever is left over instead of deciding what's left over. This is the single biggest structural difference between Mira and Farah, and it's almost never framed as a financial decision. It's framed as a personality trait, as if some people are just naturally good with money. Farah's plan, if you can call it that, was to spend on what she needed and wanted throughout the month and save whatever happened to be left before the next paycheck arrived. Some months, that was $200. Some months, it was nothing. There was no target, no automatic transfer, no decision made in advance. Saving was the leftover, not the plan. Mira did the opposite. The moment her paycheck arrived, a fixed percentage moved automatically into a separate account before she saw the rest of the money as available at all. She wasn't saving what was left over. She was spending what was left over, after saving came first. Here's the psychological insight that explains why this works. Money you never see as available is money you never miss. Money that sits in your main account, visible and spendable, gets spent. Not out of weakness, but because your brain treats visible, accessible money as a resource to be used. Mira wasn't more disciplined than Farah in a general sense. She'd simply removed the moment of decision entirely, so discipline was never required. Rule 7. You confuse looking financially stable with being financially stable. This is the sign that ties every other one together, and it's the reason Farah never realized anything was wrong until year 5. From the outside, Farah's life looked completely fine. Nice apartment, decent car, never late on a bill. If you'd met her at any point during those 5 years, nothing about her would have suggested financial trouble. That's exactly the problem. Looking stable and being stable are not the same thing, and our entire culture is built around displaying the first one while rarely checking on the second. It gets worse before it gets better. Because Farah looked fine, she never felt urgency to examine any of the 6 signs before this one. There was no visible crisis forcing a conversation with herself. The debt was manageable. The subscriptions were affordable. The lifestyle upgrades were reasonable. Every individual piece passed the test of, does this look okay? And that was enough to avoid ever asking the deeper question of, is this actually working? Mira asked that question every few months, whether things looked fine or not out of anxiety, but out of habit. The same way you check the oil in a car that's currently running perfectly. She didn't wait for a warning light to check under the hood. So go back to Mira and Farah. Same starting point, same paycheck, same city, 5 years apart. Farah didn't fail because of one bad decision. She failed, if you can even call it failing, since she's still doing fine on paper, because 7 small, invisible patterns compounded quietly in the background while everything on the surface looked completely normal. Her income grew and her spending grew with it. She measured herself against people whose finances she couldn't actually see. She never tracked her own numbers closely enough to catch any of it. She paid a convenience tax she never calculated. She let debt go from urgent to normal. She saved only what happened to be left over. And because none of it ever looked like a crisis, she never went looking for one. Mira didn't do anything dramatic. She didn't earn more. She didn't take extraordinary risks. She simply avoided these 7 quiet signs, one small habit at a time, and let 5 years of compounding work in her favor instead of against her. The uncomfortable truth is this: you will probably never get a clear signal that you're getting poorer. No alarm goes off. No single moment arrives to warn you. The signs are quiet and they're designed to be ignored because each one on its own looks completely reasonable. The only real question worth asking is the one Farah never asked until year 5, and the one Mira asked every few months without fail. Not, does this look fine? But, is this actually working?